Use the graph of g of x below to answer questions number 3 and 4. Show any work necessary to support your answers. So a reminder here as we evaluate based on this graph that you're only going to get one answer to these questions. So we look at g of -4, reminder that that means g of x. So that's saying, well, x equals -4. So when we come over here to -4, well, what does y equal? Well, it equals this value right there, which is 7. G of -3, be careful, because g of -3, we go to -3, the x value is -3, we've got a filled-in circle, and then we've got an open circle. We want to take the filled-in circle because the filled-in circle means that it is included, and the open circle means not included. So this is going to be not -3, but positive. Nope, looks like +4. If I try again, 1, 2, 3, 4. G of 0, no real issues on that. Again, x is 0, so the y value will be here at 4. G of 3, well, G of 3 is going to have our y value at 6, and G of 6 is going to be right here at the edge of the arrow. And that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that graph and we're going to write the equations of it. And just a reminder that it's a nice way, I've broken it apart to do the left portion, the middle portion, the right portion. But maybe you need to do that, and maybe you don't need to do that when you're working. Also, just a reminder to watch out. Are you working with a segment or are you working with an array? That's going to be helpful for the domain. But when we start with our first piece, which is going to be to the far left here, we want to identify what's the slope and what's the y-intercept. And the slope is probably the easier part of this problem. If we pick this point right there and this point right here, and our slope is rise over run, looks like we get up to the left 1, which is going to be -2x. And once we determine what the slope is, we can continue. We can go down to the right 1, down to the right 1, down to the right 1. Because you have to figure out where would the y-intercept be. And the nice thing is I can erase up here, so hopefully you can follow through. But where we would cross the y-axis is at -1. So our left portion is going to be -2x minus 1. And I am going to erase that. Notice that that left portion is a ray. So we're going to have our x. We're going to have a starting point. Our starting point is the open circle, which has an x value of -3. And where we graph on the x-axis from that portion is going to be in this direction, which means that we're going less than -3. And it is less because there's an open circle. Filled-in circles have the equals in them. When we look at the middle portion, it's a segment, so that's helpful. It also is a horizontal line, and we cross the y-axis at 4. And then our domain, well, we've got a starting point. So read the graph left to right, and our starting point is at -3. And our ending point is at 1, and we're looking at everything in between. We're always going to point in this direction with that format. And the 3, the negative 3, is going to have an equals because it's a filled in circle. Then we have one more piece to go. It's a ray. We're going to go to the right now. And the right portion, once again, we need to figure out what the slope is. And I just noticed some points on here. If we look at this, again, slope is rise over run. We went up one to the right one. So our slope is 1 over 1. And we have to find our y-intercept. So either lightly with your pencil or whatever works, we're going to go down 1 to the left 1, down 1 to the left 1. We don't have to go very far. If we kept drawing this line, we would see that our y-intercept is at 3. So what we have here for our right portion is 1x plus 3. And then we need to come up with our domain. Once again, it's a ray. So we only have a starting point. So we have x. Our starting point is at the filled-in circle, the x value of the filled-in circle, which is a 2. And in this particular graph, we're going this direction, which is to the right, filled in, so we're going to go greater than or equal to. And now that we've determined all of those values, and again, some of you, that's a good way to just really do piece by piece by piece by piece. But some of you can go directly down here and fill in what we need to fill in, which starts with the negative 2x minus 1 if x is less than negative 3. The middle portion is 4, comma, when x is between negative 3 and 1, including the negative 3. And finally, the third piece is the 1x plus 3, and x is greater than or equal to 2.